In this video, I'm gonna go over with you guys how to make a 4-piece organic shaped ceramic coaster set. We're gonna be turning these into geode coasters. So we are gonna be glazing them really pretty, and then we're gonna be melting glass in the center here. That way you're gonna get this geode effect, kind of like a natural rock look to it. We're gonna be creating a set of 4 coasters. You'll notice that the coaster has a little bit of a dip in it. This is where it's going to hold your cup, so you're gonna wanna make sure you make it big enough for about a standard size cup to actually set in there. You're also gonna wanna make sure that you have it just a little bit lower down here so that when the glass melts, it's not gonna melt over the edges. I'll show you guys a lot of examples of melted glass coasters in class, so you'll kind of know a little bit more of what I'm talking about. And I probably did prior to this video, but I'm just gonna continue along with it. So here is a set of 4 finished coasters. You can see they're probably about the size of my fist or so, and also kind of paying attention to the thinness of them. What you guys are gonna need is you're gonna need a piece of clay. And because we're making these organic in shape, try to use about the same amount of clay for every single coaster so they're uniform in some sense. But because they are organic and they're gonna be like a little topsy-turvy along the edges, we don't have to make them perfect. So if they're a little bit off, that's fine. The first thing you guys are gonna do is take your piece of clay and you're gonna kind of pat it in between your 2 hands. And you're gonna start to make kind of like a thick pancake shape. You'll notice around the edges, it's gonna start to crack a little bit. So you're gonna wanna go in and you're gonna wanna smooth, and you're gonna wanna try to get the edges as even as you can. So it should almost look like a really smooth river rock. Flat, smooth river rock. And like I said, you still want to keep it, something about the size of your palm. So now that I have this, and I'm going to take my time smoothing it out, because we are going to be glazing these, you guys can use these as functional coaster sets. You want to really take your time and focus on what you're creating. Make sure everything's nice and smooth. Then you're gonna go ahead and you're going to put your piece of clay down onto a piece of palette paper or board. I'm gonna have you guys all sharing the same board in class, but for working, we don't want the clay to stick to the table, so we're gonna use this wax paper. I'm gonna go in with something called a ribbon tool. It has hooks on the end like this. And I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna draw an approximate line using this tool for how much clay I wanna take out from the edges. So I'm just scooping it out. From there, I have all this extra clay, and I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna start to carve it out. The clay is gonna be a little bit sticky, so take your time getting all the clay out. We do not wanna go too deep with our carving, but we also don't wanna go too shallow, because then you're gonna risk getting a hole in the bottom of your coaster, and we're just gonna have to start the process all over again. You can always carve more out, but it becomes a little bit tricky to add more clay in. So right now, we have something that looks like this, and we wanna turn it into something that looks like that. Step 2 is gonna be smoothing. So I'm gonna be taking the clay from the edges here, and I'm gonna be smoothing it into the coaster shape, and I'm gonna be pushing it down. So I'm creating a little bit of a ledge there, and I'm also compressing the clay into the center. This is gonna thicken up the clay in the center, but also at the same time, it's gonna give me a really nice shape. You guys could push out like that a little bit. And we're gonna really kind of start molding the clay to itself by folding that over and in and just smoothing this out. We're gonna be working on these for probably 2 or 3 days to get a nice set of 4 coasters. So take your time with this. I'm going through it a little bit quicker than I did for the others that I created, just to kind of give you guys, you know, a brief example. So now I have something that is like that, but I still think it's a tad thick on the bottom. So I'm just gonna go in again with my ribbon tool and I'm just gonna scrape a little bit up. So I'm just going in and thinning it out a little bit. Just any of that excess clay, so it's not a super heavy coaster. You also wanna make sure you carve it thin enough. If you see this little pocket here, that is an air pocket, and that can happen in the clay if it's not compressed enough. So what we want to do now is we want to make sure we go through and we really smooth this out and really compress the clay together. So I'm going to go in with my thumb and with my pointer finger, and I'm going to really smush this clay together. And this is why I'm working on the palette paper. If I wasn't, this would definitely be stuck all to the table right now. Now, once you get to a form like this, because these are going to look like organic geode slices, you can go in and you can start to shape it a little bit and make them all a little bit more unique. As long as you have this little ledge. Because if you don't have a ledge and it's not flared up on the sides, the glass will just melt right over. It will get stuck to the kiln and then we won't have any coasters. So I would just go in, I would touch this up, smoothing with your finger or a little bit of extra clay if we need to. And then you could probably go in and peel it up. You might want to flip it over and make sure you're smoothing any pieces on the side out. But that would be essentially a finished coaster. I'm gonna bring these over with my other set I had before, just to kind of reiterate that we are creating just kind of natural shapes with these. Once the glaze and the glass is on them, they're gonna look absolutely beautiful and you'll have a nice set of professional coasters.